I call her Baby Bear. She called me Mama Bear. So she was my little cub.
She was daddy's girl. She was my princess. I called her my princess.
What would you do if your daughter walked out the door one evening, promising she'd be back soon, but never returned? That moment of silence when you realize something has gone terribly wrong and there's no explanation. This is Wanita Gibson, an 18-year-old with everything to live for. On December 22, 2025, she left her family's home in North St. Louis, Missouri, but little did her loved ones know she would soon become the subject of a missing persons case. For weeks, there were no phone calls, no texts, no signs, and no clues. Flyers went up, vigils were held, and her family pleaded for answers. Just when it felt like it could get worse, her family would receive chilling and heartbreaking news. On February 16, 2026, barge workers traveling near River Cement Road south of Festus, Missouri, spotted a body floating in the Mississippi River. The Missouri State Highway Patrol responded, recovering the remains and sending them to the St. Louis County Medical Examiner's Office. 2 days later, the devastating truth emerged. The body was identified as 18-year-old Wanita Gibson. For nearly 2 months, her family lived in uncertainty, clinging to hope, but the discovery brought heartbreak instead of answers. And as investigators scrambled to piece together what happened, one haunting question remained. How did a young woman with so much promise end up in the river, and why did it take so long for her case to receive the attention it deserved? Before we uncover the terrifying truth that unfolded on that seemingly normal day, let's step back to how it all started.
It just, it was a lot going through her mind. Man, it's hard words to express. She was scared, and she had to isolate herself from the issue. When I spoke with the detective the other day, he said that she drowned.
Wanita Gibson was only 18 years old when she disappeared from her family's home in North St. Louis, Missouri. She was a teenager with a bright future ahead of her, filled with love and promise. Wanita's family, especially her parents, Keith Gibson Jr. and Tina Patterson, loved her with everything they had. But little did they know, the story was far from over. Keith called her his princess, and she was his daddy's girl. Tina affectionately called her Baby Bear, and Wanita called her mom Mama Bear. Their bond was deep, and their relationship was built on love, affection, and support. This was not a household with brokenness. It was a home full of love. Family gatherings were filled with laughter, shared meals, and traditions that reinforced their closeness. And yet, beneath this warmth and devotion, a chilling twist was about to unfold. Wanita was a student at Marquette High School, part of the Rockwood School District. She loved life, was deeply involved in her faith, and often sang in the church choir alongside her mother. Her voice carried through the sanctuary, a reminder of her devotion and her joy in sharing it with others. Her love for animals was also well known. Friends remembered how she would stop to help stray dogs or volunteer at local shelters, always eager to give her time and affection. At one point, she found a stray cat and named it Pluto, carrying it home on her shoulder. That small act of compassion reflected the larger truth of who she was, someone who cared deeply for all living things. These small, tender details about her life paint the picture of a kind-hearted, compassionate young woman with a love for life and those around her, which was a wonder why anyone would want to hurt her. By all accounts, she was simply a normal teen navigating the ups and downs of life, surrounded by family, faith, and the anticipation of what the future would bring. She dreamed of college, spoke often about wanting to study nursing, and imagined a future where she could combine her compassion with a career helping others. But one day, everything changed, and her family's world was turned upside down. It started like any other ordinary day. On the afternoon of December 22, 2025, Wanita briefly entered her family home, greeted her parents, and told them she was heading to the store. Nothing out of the ordinary, no signs of distress, just a normal interaction. But that was the last time anyone saw her alive. She walked out the door, and from there, her trail began. Surveillance cameras nearby picked up images of Wanita walking to a metro bus stop near North Broadway and Riverview. She boarded a bus, and later, cameras captured her getting off near Carr and Broadway downtown St. Louis. This was the last confirmed sighting of the 18-year-old. But after that, nothing. Wanita disappeared into the cold December night. No phone activity, no sightings, no leads. After her last confirmed sighting on December 22, 2025, Wanita's disappearance threw her family into an unrelenting period of confusion and heartbreak. She had left the house so casually, with no warning or signs that anything could go wrong. That day should have been like any other, but as the hours ticked by and she didn't return, concern quickly turned into panic. Her family immediately filed a missing persons report on Christmas Eve, a time when most families are together, wrapping presents and celebrating. Instead, Keith and Tina Gibson found themselves in a situation no parent should ever face, searching for their daughter in the midst of the holiday season. Wanita's family clung to the hope that she might turn up safe, that she had simply lost track of time or maybe gone to visit a friend. But as the days passed and there were no calls, no signs of her, that hope began to fade. What followed were agonizing weeks of silence, broken only by fleeting images on surveillance cameras and the cold, haunting emptiness of not knowing where she was or what had happened. For 2 months, her family searched desperately for answers, hoping that their daughter would return home. They filed a missing persons report on Christmas Eve, but despite the urgency of the situation and the surveillance footage that tracked her movements, the case went cold. Her parents kept pushing forward, contacting authorities, following every lead they could find, yet the investigation seemed to stall. Despite the initial clues like the surveillance video showing Wanita boarding the bus and walking down the downtown street, there was little progress. Even though her family had specific details about her last known movements, the case slipped and was overshadowed by the rush of other news stories. The family endured 2 months of uncertainty. Wanita's mother sang in the choir, but there was an empty space beside her. Her father held on to hope, but struggled quietly. For 2 months, Wanita's dogs and cats waited for her return, not understanding why she never came back. Meanwhile, across town, another piece of the puzzle was falling into place. In February 2026, authorities contacted the Gibson family with news they had been dreading. Their daughter's body had been found. It was recovered from the Mississippi River near Festus, a small town about 30 miles south of St. Louis. Barge workers traveling near River Cement Road just south of Festus, Missouri, had made a grim discovery as they navigated the waters of the Mississippi River. In the stillness of the morning, they spotted what appeared to be a body floating along the current, a sight that immediately halted their routine work and set off a chain of events no one was prepared for. The workers quickly alerted authorities, and within minutes, the Missouri State Highway Patrol arrived on the scene. Officers secured the area and coordinated efforts to recover the remains from the river. Once recovered, the remains were transported to the St. Louis County Medical Examiner's office. There, forensic specialists made the painstaking identification that confirmed 18-year-old Wanita Gibson as the individual's identity. Imagine the anguish. Wanita had disappeared into the cold night, and her body had been floating somewhere in the river all along, while her parents desperately tried to piece together the truth.
Heartbreak and sadness tonight for a St. Louis family of a teen missing for 2 months. Hours ago, they learned the 18-year-old's body was found this week in the Mississippi River near Festus. Only on 5 on Your Side tonight, Robert Townsend talks to her grieving parents.
You can see the shock and sadness on the faces of Wanita Gibson's parents.
I call her Baby Bear. She called me Mama Bear. So she was like my little cub.
She was daddy's girl. She was my princess. I call her my princess.
Her family says on the afternoon of December 22nd, the Ring doorbell camera captured Gibson on video, leaving their home in North St. Louis.
She came in the house, we saw her for a split second, and she said she was going to the store.
They say Wanita walked to this metro bus station around the corner near Broadway and Riverview.
And she waited there for a while. I'm like, we could have called her. Had we known, you know? So that's what I'm upset about. I would have went after her and got her and brought her back.
Surveillance cameras snapped photos of the 18-year-old Gibson getting on a bus and later getting off near Carr and Broadway downtown. But when she never returned home, her worried family reported her missing.
We got a couple images of her walking down 2nd Street, and that was the last that we got.
2 months later, detectives called the family and told them barge workers found their loved one's body in the Mississippi River near Festus Monday.
When I got the call this morning, I expected her there.
She loved Jesus. She loved going to church.
And Gibson especially loved her family and her 2 dogs and 2 cats.
She came home and told me one time she had him on her shoulder. She loved him. She loved all these babies.
So at this point, Gibson's family still has lots of questions surrounding her. They're hoping once an autopsy is completed, they'll finally get the answers to what they call a painful mystery.
Only God, that's it. I know that she's with him. And I know that I see her again.
Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
But the discovery of Wanita's body would raise many questions. How did she end up in the river? What happened in the time between her last known sighting and the discovery of her body? The autopsy and investigation would eventually bring some answers, but at the time, her family was left with heartbreak and confusion. While some local outlets reported on Wanita's case, it didn't receive the attention it truly needed. There was no outpouring of nationwide support, no massive media push, no viral hashtag demanding justice. It wasn't until her body was found that the story began to shift back into the public's consciousness. As the investigation continues, the Gibson family is left waiting for answers. While Wanita's body has been recovered, the cause of her death has not been confirmed, and no suspects have been named. The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department is actively investigating, but the 2 months of silence, the gap between Wanita's disappearance and the discovery of her body, remain largely unexplained. For Wanita's family, the confirmation of her death brought an indescribable sense of finality, yet it left so many unanswered questions. Her father, Keith Gibson, received the phone call that no parent ever wants to get. In an interview shortly after receiving the news, Keith described how he broke down, calling on the name of Jesus as he grappled with the pain of losing his daughter. He believes that something happened after she got off the bus that night. What transpired in those hours before her body was found? Why had she left the safety of her home in the first place? What could have led her to disappear into the night with no explanation?
We found your daughter. I said, oh my God. Immediately I started, tears began to stream down my face.
But first on Fox, an investigation is underway into a teen girl's death. Thanks for joining us for Fox 2 News at 10. I'm Max Dieknight. 2 months after a North St. Louis teen disappeared, her family is now preparing for her funeral. Tonight, her father is sharing the moment he learned that she'd been found dead. Fox 2's Taylor Harris has their story.
I spoke with her father just days after learning his daughter will not be returning home, and now he says grief is not the only thing his family is living with. Uncertainty is. And for nearly 2 months, the Gibson family searched for 18-year-old Wanita Gibson. Police say she was last seen December 22nd, leaving her home, telling her mother she'd be right back. She never returned. Investigators tracked her riding metro buses downtown, and then nothing until Monday. Barge workers discovered a body in the Mississippi River near Festus. 2 days later, police called her father.
And when I got the news, I just began to break down. But I began to call on the name of Jesus.
He said he had prayed for answers, just not these.
She just took off, and she was scared. She was scared in her heart, and she had a lot going through her mind, and what she was doing is isolating herself from the issue.
Her father believes something happened after she got off the bus that night, and now the family waits for the autopsy to explain how she ended up miles away in the river. But while investigators work, he remembers the daughter behind the headlines.
She was a very touching person, and her heart, and she was a woman of God too, true woman of God. Her life touched so many lives. I'm gonna miss her. That was my princess.
The family is now planning her homegoing celebration instead of a welcome home. And now her father has a message for whoever may know what happened.
Whoever done this, my heart will. I pray that that God will forgive them, but also justice will be served.
Police say the investigation into Wanita Gibson's death remains active, and anyone with information is asked to contact St. Louis police. And her family says answers will not bring her back, but they said that they need them to move forward. Taylor Harris, Fox 2 News.
Keith's grief was visible, but the search for answers continues. The family hopes that the autopsy will shed some light on the cause of death and give them some clarity on how their daughter ended up in the river. But the authorities have yet to confirm any details, and so the questions persist. What happened in those final moments after Wanita was last seen on 2nd Street? Did someone approach her, offer help, or make her feel unsafe? Who else might know more about what happened that night but has remained silent? While the family waits for answers, they continue to hold on to the memory of their daughter, the girl who loved animals, who was a woman of faith, and who was deeply loved by her family. To them, Wanita was baby bear and daddy's princess. She was a daughter full of life, faith, and compassion, and no one could understand why her story ended so tragically. As Wanita's family continues to mourn, the investigation into her death remains ongoing, but little is being shared with the public. There has been no official cause of death confirmed, and the police have not named any suspects. As of now, no foul play has been ruled out, but there has been no clear indication of what happened to Wanita Gibson during those 2 months she was missing. The silence of the investigation has only added to the heartbreak. The community feels the same frustration. Wanita's story deserves to be heard, and the truth behind her disappearance and death needs to come to light. Yet, with each passing day, the authorities remain tight-lipped about key details. While local media reported on her case, it was not until the body was found in the river that the case started receiving renewed attention. This tragic story also raises a concerning issue. The lack of media coverage and urgency surrounding the case, especially in the beginning, points to a disturbing pattern: the disparity in how missing persons cases are handled based on race. Missing Black women and girls like Wanita have historically received less media attention than others. The slow-moving nature of this case and the lack of widespread national attention in the early days only highlight this ongoing problem. Wanita's story, her life, and her death should have received wall-to-wall media coverage from the very beginning. Yet, for much of the 2-month search, her family felt alone in their pursuit of answers, as if her daughter's disappearance was not worthy of the same level of urgency that other cases may receive. This disparity is not new, and it has sparked calls for greater media attention to missing Black women, particularly given the tragic pattern of how often their stories fade into the background. The disparity in attention is a problem that needs to be addressed. Wanita was someone who touched lives, who had a future ahead of her, and who deserved the same level of care, empathy, and concern as any other missing person. Her family shouldn't have to fight for the visibility of their daughter's case. Wanita Gibson was not just a statistic. She was a vibrant young woman with a future ahead of her, and her life and her story deserve the same attention and urgency as anyone else's. It is up to us, the public, to keep her story alive, to demand answers, and to ensure that the investigation into her death is thorough and transparent. As the investigation continues, the Gibson family remains focused on the most important goal: finding the truth. Keith and Tina are determined to get answers, even if it means challenging the system and pushing for more accountability from law enforcement. While they wait for the results of the autopsy and hope for further breakthroughs, their resolve is unwavering. They want justice, not only for Wanita, but for their family's peace of mind and closure. The family's pain is matched only by their resolve to seek justice. While they hold on to their faith and the hope that they will one day understand what happened, they also understand that answers are necessary for closure and for the peace they so desperately need. Wanita Gibson was more than a missing person. She was a daughter, a friend, a young woman with so much potential, a passion for life, and a bright future ahead of her. Her story deserves to be told, not just because of the tragedy, but because of the love and warmth she brought into the world. She was 18 years old when her life was cut short, and that fact alone is a cruel reminder of how fragile life can be. In the days ahead, as her family continues to mourn, the question remains, what happened to Wanita? The investigation into her death is far from over, and there is still hope that the truth will eventually come to light. But until then, her family and the community wait in a painful limbo, hoping for answers that may never come. As the investigation presses on, the public must continue to hold the authorities accountable. Wanita's story should not be allowed to fade away quietly. Her family needs answers, and so does the community. If you're moved by this case, if it's left a mark on you, then it's time to act. Like this video, share it, and keep her story alive. The more people who are aware of her case, the more likely it is that someone will come forward with the information needed to crack it open. It's easy to assume someone else will speak up, but the truth is, we all play a role in ensuring that justice is done. If you know anything about this case, anything at all, please come forward. The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department is actively investigating, and every bit of information could be crucial. The longer the silence persists, the harder it becomes for her family to heal, and the more difficult it is to find the answers they deserve. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.